Still the same DuPay.
No, that was crazy. But
shut it down. Yeah.
We on live on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we all the way live. We up.
All right, cool. Another week. Again, welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Blackcoat. And here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in APOW, which is American, since we are the Americans. I'll go ahead and start today with the 12 steps for recovery. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So step 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? Step 5, they either support it or they do not. No support means no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small business that does not hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive, so set the trends, making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step 10, the government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the gold standard act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your children 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. They should know the nation of people to the European, the nation of people prior to the European invasion, militarily and culturally. Step 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America, and it attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause. As always, we like to highlight just 1 or 2 steps that kind of just stood out to us this week. I'll go ahead and just say mine would be number 10. I'll kind of dig into it a little bit deeper when reading the Constitution, just to kind of make it hit home. But just understanding that this money, or so-called money, is no longer backed by what actually is constitutional money, which would be gold and silver. So Chief Alligator likes to say we basically just have coupons and I guess you could say tokens in regards to, our debit cards and our, this fiat that we have, or that we call cash. So again, people, is not backed by nothing. We're literally operating off the faith of its citizens as far as the US government and its money. So that was pretty much my piece from this week. What steps kind of stood out to you all this week, Chiefs?
I'll go ahead and say, I think I was looking at number 3. No, number 4, I apologize. Ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? Just gonna point that one out this week. To move forward, we will need reparations. So we got all of these organizations that, represent us in a way of the media. We should definitely understand their stance on reparations moving forward. And reparations is the only thing that's going to allow us to actually move forward, because everybody else is like 100 years ahead. But yeah, number 4 is standing out to me.
I'm gonna go with 10 as well, but I'm gonna stick with this one sentence. I don't believe I know we don't as a group really understand step 10. The part that says the government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. So the way that I was taught is belief is hope. Kids operate off of a belief or a hope mind state. Faith is knowing something. So this government functions by its citizens knowing that the US dollar is money when it's not. I don't think we get that. I mean, we will understand the formulas on how society is supposed to. Let me give a prime example this week with the student loan debt relief. You got people saying, oh, it's going to inflate the taxes and the cost is going to be, all of that's a lie because there is no money. There is no money. We don't get it. We really don't understand that in 1971, you cannot take this paper coupon and go to a bank and redeem it in gold. But that's what your grandparents did and your great grandparents did. That was the purpose of a bank. The bank held money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sticks out to me. We're not there yet. And once you step off the ledge, if you own the United States government, the we the people, and you can get your citizens to operate without exchanging real money, that's the first step into make-believe.
Mm-hmm.
Everything after that is just another layer of it. Then we can get into white, black, Afro-American, all these different genders. But it starts the moment that you can get people down to an animal husbandry level where you can get them to function and keep a government operating and they're not receiving money. It's coming down. Other world governments are trying to get their currency backed by something tangible, i.e. China, i.e. Russia, but it really hinges on the people under this government. And for our people specifically, why do you deal with quote unquote racism when there is no money? It doesn't make sense. Like, you're making these people supreme, but they run a government that's bankrupt. It's over. We just don't realize it.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point and excellent breakdown. Given, a real life example, something just came down this past Wednesday with the, debt relief. Like you said, how can it cause more inflation when there is no money? All they're doing is adding an extra zero to something that it doesn't exist. It's just, nothing.
Right.
Go ahead, Chief Blacko, you was about to say something.
Oh no, I was just saying that the government is just sticking to the script at this point. What happens in a time of inflation or whatever it affects, blah, blah, blah. They're just playing that game. They're just going along, again, back to the script. But yeah, there's no money. So like y'all said, Wendy tokens, I call them, whatever bucks. But like Chief Alligator said, you could go to the bank and exchange that note for the real money. You can't do that today. You go and exchange it. You can't even exchange it. So
they're gonna give you the same thing back. Yeah.
So it's like,
and you're redeeming your coupons.
What Chief Alligator was trying to, get to is if you can get a group of people to play that game in bad times. Because ultimately, I think we kind of know this ain't money. Ultimately.
Great point. Great point. Next, we'll go ahead and have actually you, Chief Blackcoat, with this week's inventor.
Let me see if I can share my screen. And short and sweet, chose this inventor today because I see a lot of people are definitely coming into their knowledge of who they are, and they're putting their flags up in in their bios, or they're identifying where they're from with their flags. So I just wanted to bring up the inventor today, Mr. Henry A. Bowman. He is the inventor of the method of making flags. Now, he didn't, of course, invent the whole ideal of a flag. He is the guy for the method of making the flag. faster, better, putting stars where they should be. It goes into great description of, why he got a patent for this. Very little information on the guy. I'll start with his patent number, 469395 alpha. I also got a couple of just photos pretty much showing his patent. It might not look like much, but today, flags, represent a lot today. So to know that they have this method down because of another Black man to how to produce flags and make them look how they should look. And again, that description of why he has a patent is in depth. So it's not just, oh, he knows how to make a flag. No, it's very in depth of why he received a patent for it. That's one of the versions. Let's see if I can back out of this.
So he's the first one to put stars on a flag?
Correct. I'm gonna try to go to the description. I done messed up because we got this screen sharing thing. Hold on. So I'm just deep dive into his description. All right, so under description, let's see. Let me see. Had a great little summary. All right, so I'm gonna just read this one real quick and short. The method of making flags have herein described, which consists in locating and temporarily fastening, accurately forming stars or emblems upon face of the field fabric. So that's pretty much a summary of what his method of making the flag is. It's about 3 paragraphs long, but Mr. Henry A. Bowman couldn't find any pictures of my man's or just background history, but this is an Black American coin for the method of making flags. Henry A. Bowman.
What's the year on that?
Oh yeah, I apologize. He received his patent February 23rd, 1892, and it does not expire.
That's a great inventor for this week. Great inventor.
Receive anything?
No. When I realized I couldn't even figure out who he is, it's like, why do you want this guy to be so hidden? But they just kept pulling up generals in the military, and I'm putting in inventor, Henry A. flag maker, trying to use all keywords, and this guy's like a ghost, but he is coined a Black American.
That's excellent, Wendell. I'll go ahead and continue with this week's Dr. Woodson quote. Let me see what I want to go with today.
I'll send the information over in a little bit.
Kind of like this one. I think I'm going to go with, what was it? Number 5 here. Real education means to inspire people to live more abundantly, to learn to begin with life as they find it and make it better. But the instruction so far given Negroes in colleges and universities has worked to the contrary. In most cases, such graduates have merely increased the number of malcontents who offer no program for changing the undesirable conditions about which they complain. One should rely upon protests only when it is supported by a constructive program. And that is quote number 5 from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And lastly, go ahead and have Chief Alligator with the legal definitions and maroon historical points.
Okay, legal definitions. First one is going to be American. That's indigenous to America. Second definition, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Third definition, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Fifth definition, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. 6, education, an enlightening experience. 7, recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, the action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost. And 5 historical maroon points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Second point, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Point 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Point 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Point 5, maroons knew their enemy's language, defenses, and plans. We don't have none of those points as a group of people right now. None of these 5 points are we in alignment with.
I have to agree. It's just, and it shows. I mean, it just shows in, I would say our status, where we currently are as a group of people, always constantly begging for things instead of actually, running things and dictating things. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do, but we do have these points, these steps in place for a reason. But again, it's just about applying these steps, actually getting the practical use out of them. And with that, lastly, going to jump into the Constitution. So of course, as always, Article 1, Section 10, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, as we read in our 12 steps, number 10 says the government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debts. So knowing that the gold and silver was taken out of the system in 1971, so ever since 1971, the government has been operating strictly off the faith of its citizens to pay these debts. And that's a direct contradiction to this government's founding constitution or founding government document, which is the Constitution. Because it clearly says here, gold and silver are the only thing that can be used as payment to debts, not the faith of its citizens. So as Chief Alligator highlighted, when it comes to this, loan forgiveness and people arguing about inflation, things of that nature, it doesn't exist. It's just a propaganda at this point, just to keep you fighting for something that does not exist. So again, gold and silver is valuable because it has that practical use. Silver can be used for hundreds of things, but one of the main components is, for electronic purposes. It's a good conductor of, electricity, things of that nature. Also, I think I read something, it's like antimicrobial, something like that. Even silverware, that's where they come up with that term. So multiple things, and that's what puts that value on it, because it can be used practically for multiple things versus just credit cards or dollar bills with nothing backed by, as he stated earlier. You used to be able to go into a bank, exchange your $10 bill for $10 worth of gold or silver. Now you can't do that. So again, as soon as that clicks for our group of people, and really all of the US citizens, but mainly our group of people, then I think we'll be like, okay, like he stated, why are we dealing with racism? Why are we dealing with police brutality? Why are we dealing with no housing for our people? If the shit that we're trying to pay for the house with is bullshit, it's backed by nothing. So again, just some things to kind of think about on a daily basis. And hopefully, one day or at some point it'll click and register. Next, actually is up here, Article 2, Section 2, the powers of the president, or some of the powers. The president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. So again, as we continue to highlight, as we continue to bring examples, the commander-in-chief The president is the commander-in-chief of the Army, Navy, as well as the militia. So that has to be understood, overstood, understood, because you have to understand who's controlling what. I think it was last week or maybe a week before last when they got a warrant to search former President Trump's estate. The next day, you heard about militiamen outside of these government buildings. It's for a reason. So with that being said, I'll let you, the viewer, think, okay, so who is really the commander-in-chief if he's actually controlling this militia, this separate branch of this United States military forces? And lastly, Article 6, Paragraph 2, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution and laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So again, this here just clearly states that the treaties are the supreme law of the land. What we've been doing these past 3 weeks, going through the 1866 Indian Treaty hearings. Knowing that one, there was no Civil War, there was no, Congress passed or declared war against the actual Americans, which was the Seminole War, then how do we have these quote unquote treaties ending these wars and moving people from their original, homelands to this Oklahoma Indian territory reservations? So then, again, just questions we have to ask, and questions that aren't being asked in these hearings that we continue to pretty much listen to.
Good bill for sure, because you hit something. 1866 Indian Treaty. What war? I get the narrative is Civil War, but we debunked that. So what was this treaty, amended for?
Correct. I'm just actually gonna pull up that Constitution again. This jog my memory, because again, we're gonna show the documentation, people. That's one thing about this channel. We're not just gonna feed you some narrative. We're gonna tell you exactly what document we're referencing. So we go up here to Article 1, Section 10, or Section 8, rather, lists off the powers of the Congress. And as you can see, one of the powers is to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. So we just said they captured land in the Southeast region, which if you look at these quote unquote civilized tribes websites, you'll see where they say they're originally from, which is the Southeast. So if they're no longer there and they're now in Oklahoma, then that means that their land was captured, correct? So if we don't have anything from Congress declaring these as actual wars, then as Chief Blackco stated, it's just a narrative. It's just a title with no meat or no substance, because you can just say anything was a war, but unless Congress declares it, then it's not an actual war. And the same thing goes with the Seminole War. We know there were multiple battles, but Congress never declared that a war. So why do we have these treaties that are ending these fake wars that Congress never actually declared?
Let me build on that right quick, Chief Biko. They coming into a vote in a couple of months with the U.S. citizens. We're not there. This channel is about recovery. Right now, we're mentally shut out as a group of people. We're sick as hell because what you were just showing, Chief Biko, the Constitution, that's part of the table of contents. That's the theory of operation for this government. We don't know how this shit's supposed to work. There's no way at this point that we can fix anything because we don't know how it works. So it's good to see that you understand it, and understand it, how you're going and showing Congress declares war, but I'm just thinking in my mind while you're doing that, and I'm like, wow, our group is clueless to this info. Clueless. So we're operating in a machine because we say system, but it's a machine. That means that it has different systems to it. It's got a lawmaking system, the legislative branch. It's got a branch that interprets the legislative branch, which is judicial, and then they got an executive branch. But we don't even understand how this machine works. That's why we're just pretty much just lost in the sauce. We're lost in the sauce. We're crazy as hell. We all need to be in mental hospitals because the school system and what they've done to us, we're literally walking around and we don't know none of this. I just wanted to throw that in. It's depressing, but I get energetic. I get energy just from coming out here and just throwing this out here, but we're so far, what attracts our attention on a day-to-day basis, you know, why we're being killed on video and things of that nature. And then you come, you know, we come here on Sundays and we ground it based on documents. Like, look, here's a table of contents. Before you read the book, read the table. We don't know this. We don't know nothing about this Constitution at all.
And yes, because I feel like reading and understanding this Constitution is what makes you an American. And that goes very well for the European because that's how they can claim the American, because this machine here works for them. Our people machine was hijacked. So now it's like, you know, this machine isn't pushed onto our group to understand and learn because it's not for you. And we don't need you to know the ins and the outs and the gray holes to win in this game. And it's almost like our group knows this it's not ours, so we don't want to touch it. And that's not how we won't be able to. Well, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to understand it. That's the only way. The only way out is in. So yeah, we're gonna have to understand this.
Kind of like my bad. You had some more. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good. I said.
No, I was gonna just build off of that because it just go back to us, you know, understanding the Maroon historical points. We're not following those. Like the last point, know the European enemy's language, defenses, and plans.
And we're just like Chief Alligator was saying, lost in the sauce. Shout out to Gooch. It's just in this past lost in the sauce. Like this machine got us so delirious. We really live in a la la land completely. Like you can't even have these type of conversations with your peers. Something else is more important than this. And I'm always like, no, this is important. But everybody important is different, but we're trying to move forward as a group, you know, as far as what we do is, you know, the Lost Confederacy. We want to be found again. And our group hasn't even got to the fact that we lost. Like we gotta understand that we're just here. So it's like, yeah, I agree with you, Mike. The group is in bad conditions because we can't have these conversations, you know, when needed.
Use Atlanta for an example, not to beat this dead horse, but look at what happened in Atlanta this week. Rayshard Brooks was killed in 2020. We had a series of murders that happened in 2020, which all of us suffer from trauma. If you look like me and you're in North America from 2020 to now, how many murders have we seen on video? But Rayshard Brooks was shot in the back in Atlanta in the Wendy's parking lot. The district attorney that everybody is supposed to be afraid of now because she's doing RICO charges on the only industry that people who look like us control in Atlanta, right? She drops the murder charge. She drops the murder trial on Rayshard Brooks. And the reason why that's important, it goes back to what Chief Vico was showing about the playbook, the theory of operation, how this government works. Rayshard Brooks' lawyers basically told the truth. They did not do procedure. If you know somebody that killed somebody and the arresting agency arrests you for murder, you're charged with a capital crime. You're supposed to be indicted. He never got indicted. They threw the case out without even getting him indicted at the grand jury level. And we don't even understand what that means, again, because we don't understand how this machine is supposed to work. If it's supposed to be working, you can't do that. But that goes back to being a prisoner of war. I know it's a harsh term and a lot of us don't want to deal with that reality. But when you can write a playbook and say, okay, here's the theory of operation, here's how it's supposed to work. But then when one group of people get put within that operating procedure, they say, well, it don't apply to you. How long do we have to keep seeing this before we realize, all right, like Chief Blackco said, this shit ain't for us. January 6th, they had a whole hearing, no criminal charges. They arrest the man for murder, never had a grant, never had a hearing to indict him, and y'all okay with it.
And
But
what you're
they're gonna
speaking,
lock up a lot of artists on make-believe charges for RICO.
right.
Y'all gonna give that woman who looks like us, that district attorney in Atlanta, y'all gonna give her a pass.
Mm.
It's crazy, like the spin they're putting on us. I'll stop right now.
And everything you said goes back to, and this channel is to, you know, shine light on the POW, the prisoner of war. Again, on the outside looking in, we're seeing the machine work for one group of people, other group of people, or others groups of people, but not in neglect. And the prisoner of war is like the tip of the you know, the mountain. That's the understanding of what we're under. And like you said, you're watching, you know, because you got a great understanding of what this system does or what this machine does and how it's supposed to work. So when things like that happen, you're seeing like, whoa, what you know, and our group is like, just nothing, you know, no, nothing's tinkering in the mind to say like, that don't sound right now, that he could just walk away after killing somebody. And again, just it happens over and over again. Well, again, that is trauma. And it's so much, it's based to the point to that we're not even pushing back at all. Like there's no pushback at this point because we don't know. That's what your alligator was saying. Yeah, we don't know.
No, that's a great point too. Like you said, to the point where don't even pay it any mind now. And that's a dangerous place to be where it's like, okay, well, we know what's going to happen, we know, but okay, you know, but what's the solution? How are we going to change this? Or are you content with the status quo per se? So
it sucks to say, but it's only a matter of time before it's you. That's terrible to say. I know we're high faith people, and it's like, oh, you know, in God's hands, yeah, I got it. But it's like you're free game.
Yeah, if it can happen to him, what you mean?
Free game.
Yeah,
you don't know the rules.
I think that's a good point to go ahead and jump into this hearing here. I think last time we left off after the Chief Hoskins, I believe, from Cherokee Nation. So we'll go ahead and jump into this one and see who speaks next.
For our second panel, we have the Honorable Brian Newland, Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs of the U.S. Department of Interior. The Honorable Chuck Hoskin Jr., Principal Chief, Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. The Honorable Louis J. Johnson, Chief of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. The Honorable Michael Barrage, General Counsel, Choctaw Nation. The Honorable Jonadev Chowdhury, Ambassador, the Muskogee Creek Nation. Mr. Stephen Greetham, Senior Counsel, Chickasaw Nation. And Ms. Marilyn Van, President, Descendants of Freedmen of the Five Tribes Association in Oklahoma. I want to remind our witnesses that your full written testimony will be made of the part of the official hearing record, and we would really appreciate it if you could keep your remarks to 5 minutes because this is an extraordinarily packed panel. And we will start with Secretary Newland. Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon.
I think we kind of listen to this fella first. Okay, we good. Let me go ahead and start from here.
A great nation. Whatever.
Thank you very much, Chief Hoskin. Chief Johnson, please proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and rest of the committee. Seminole Nation thanks you for this time to be able to speak. It has been requested of us to expand on selected provisions of the 1866 treaty. The communication to the Seminole Nation stated that in emails. A treaty was written to favor the necessities and the desires of the United States, although it was stated to be mutual necessities. I will now expand from the preamble and certain articles of the 1866 treaty for the Seminoles. Selected provisions from the preamble. Whereas existing treaties between the United States and the Seminole Nation are insufficient to meet their mutual necessities, and in view of the urgent necessities for more lands in the Indian Territory, requires a cession by said Seminole Nation a part of their present reservation, and is willing to pay therefore a reasonable price, while at the same time providing new and adequate land for them. The first phrase of the preamble is the opening words of the 1866 treaty. The existing treaty reference is the 1856 treaty, which was in fact sufficient for the Seminole, for it consisted of millions of acres of land and provided in the language of that specific treaty that the desires of the United States were the determining factor for the Seminole being the only tribal nation of the Reconstruction Treaty era forced to cede every inch of their land. 2,169,080 acres was ceded at 15 cents an acre. The Seminole understood the 2,169,080 acres ceded was to be assigned to other Indians and freedmen to live thereon. This promise was neither fulfilled nor honored. This language is present in Article 3 of the 1866 treaty and is the first time in the treaty where the term freedman is mentioned. As stated in the preamble, a need for ceded land was for only a part, not the whole of the Seminole original initial reservation. It is a fact a reasonable price was never paid for the ceded land during this era, 15 cents an acre, nor was adequate sufficient land provided as understood by the Seminole. The first sentence of Article 3 reflected the intent of the United States as the Seminole understood it to mean. The 1866 treaty ultimately was not honored in totality by the United States because the intent of Article 3 was not adhered to. There are documents from all three branches of the United States government addressing this specific section of land. That fulfills my time at this time. I'm splitting my time with Assistant Chief Palmer.
Go ahead, pause it.
Assistant Chief Palmer, please proceed.
So he had a lot to say right there in his quick brief. First of all, he doesn't look like us. I'm gonna start with that. Chief Johnson of the Seminole. He mentioned the 1856 treaty. I'm not sure when the Treaty of Fort Gibson, what year was that? That was 1830s, was it?
Yeah, I want to say that was around 1830. Was that the last one, Fort Gibson? I think that was 36 or 38.
Okay, so he's mentioning the 1856 treaty. That definitely needs to be looked into. What treaty is he referring to in that regard? He also says insufficient. He used the word insufficient when it came to land, that they lost every inch of their land. All of us could say that. Every American that came from any tribe can say they lost everything because over time we've lost everything through gentrification, redlining. Those of us that did not go into Oklahoma, we lost everything through burning of the towns, your Lake Lanier's, filling our towns up after you destroyed. I mean, it was war. It's amazing how we're just able to just glance over that. At this point, we just have to stop playing stupid, right? Because we're dealing with a group of people's mediocrity by playing dumb. You destroyed towns. So if you took a still shot picture of some people after you've burnt their town, yeah, they could be in the middle of a field nowhere with a wagon with all their stuff on the back of it. That wasn't that they came off a plantation, because that's the narrative that our people like to say, oh, they just released millions of us. No, you were burning these people towns, and these people had to literally leave with whatever they had.
Goes back to the historical points, escaping slavery or seeking freedom. And I thought that was very powerful today because the mentality of our people, you got to flip it. Not everybody was in chains getting chopped across the back. So were you escaping slavery or seeking freedom? And like Chief Alligator said, your town just probably got burned down. So they just, wanted to, document some pictures, and they got you standing there with your children, a horse, and a carriage because you ain't got nothing else. That's the story, not, well, that's a slave. Like, gotta flip that switch. Oh, and that Fort Gibson Treaty is 1833. So I don't know where he's getting 20 years later, but I'm not sure what treaty he's speaking of.
Yeah, hopefully our secretary or Chief Biko can we do need to try to look to see
For sure.
what he's referencing. The other thing that jumped out was Freedman was first mentioned in these Reconstruction treaties. I think that's powerful because we've done the due diligence to meticulously read sentence for sentence a lot of these documents. And what we notice is when you look at the Constitution, there's no reference to the Negro or anybody of African descent. You only see the word Negro come up in Special Order 15, which is where we get the 40 acres and a mule. So that was a military general calling us Negro. And then you don't hear that word Negro again until the 1866 Indian treaties. And then they added another word, freedman. So when you look at the timeline, like this Seminole chief just said, the word freedman didn't even enter into any documents until 1866. That makes sense because the Europeans were rebelling against themselves. And we already know that they adopted whites when the fact that all these people are Asian, and again, show me your list of what you built on this land. If you're claiming to be Native American and you're claiming to be the American, why does the world not follow anything that people who look like you do? I mean, it's obvious at this point, you're not the American. You're just not. They made up a group of people, and it's like, we are afraid to stand on our square and tell that truth, that there's a difference between an American and a US citizen. We were not made US citizens until 1964 with the Civil Rights Act. We were American first, way before we became a US citizen.
And you keep saying citizen, US citizen, because that Native American was classified as a citizen?
No, the Native American is its own entity.
Up under the US government.
The United States government. Citizen, to be a citizen of the United States, that means that you were able to vote, you were able to hold a state or federal job. Our people couldn't do that before 1965. We just lost the most winningest basketball player last week, Bill Russell. You got these people that are still living, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Bill Russells. Listen to their story, right? When he played with the Boston Celtics and won all them championships, he couldn't go to the restaurant with his team. He couldn't sleep at the same hotel. So I don't know where we think that we were citizens before the 60s. You could fight in these wars. You weren't going to get any benefits.
You're talking about 1960s here.
You didn't start getting benefits to the Vietnam War. If you look like us, the Korean War, World War I, World War II, GI Bill didn't refer to you. You weren't a part of that, getting those houses for the low that they were giving them Europeans back then. So I don't know.
I say that's how they got you too, saying, "Oh yeah, you can get this," but you really couldn't because again, you weren't a legitimate citizen. Yeah.
I don't know how they keep tricking us with that. That they'll show the Great Depression and we'll think that we were citizens of that.
I don't think they're tricking us. Our grandparents, I don't think they wanted to actually harp on it. What they went through, and for the grandbabies, for their children. I don't think they want us to actually relive those times. So just play the game. it's all good, or it ain't that bad, today. So it's just the mental, again, it's just all mental at this point. Everything's mental at this point. There's no money. So for us to still be playing all this, we're just trying to unpack the shit so the rest of the world can follow along. We don't want to remember that. Our grandparents don't want us to know anything about it. Nobody ever spoke about it growing up.
And that's part of the reason why we're losing right now.
Correct.
The last point that I wrote down on that is all three branches. He refers to all three branches. So again, these group of people are not sovereign at all because they're completely reliant on what the United States government determines, whether it be Congress, the judicial branch, or the executive branch. So what we're looking at is a co-op. We're looking at a co-op. These group of people are set up to play like they're us. And all you got to do is just start uncovering that shallow grave and just start looking at the body of work that we've done on this land. We're the only group of people that fought in every war. Nobody else can claim that.
I don't know nothing about them fighting no wars.
You see, I mean, this thing can go on and on. Who invented the cowboy? Who was the original cowboy? Who was, so what they're trying to make us believe now, and I heard a scholar say this yesterday, and I just cringe at this point. You're still trying to tell us that we were released from slavery in 1865, and immediately we just had all these skills and we just started building towns. It don't even make sense. No, the towns were already there. We were in unlawful wars, and as they destroyed what we had, we were forced to move in to what they were creating over time, which is how we started coming into inner cities and replacing the Jews in ghettos.
Mhm.
We had our own. We were forced to integrate with them because they destroyed what we had. Y'all want to build on what this Seminole chief was talking about?
Yeah.
Some come up. He didn't say much for me that stood out. He seems like he kind of passed the ball to his partner here, so I'm ready to see what his partner got to say.
Yeah, definitely pass it to what he said, assistant chief, who is, I mean, clear as day, a European. So just another
I don't know what he is, honestly.
another feather in the cap to say that shows, okay, yeah, these aren't us. We know who the American is. You're looking at him on this channel right now. So that was definitely want to see what he's talking about. Then something that stood out to me too was the 2.2 million acres ceded, like you said, is more than that. All of this was our land. So everything was already, confiscated or taken away. It just goes back to, again, when I highlighted that who declares war and who issues out the plans for capture of land and water, Congress. So how can that even be something done if there is no documentation of Congress even having these wars? So with that just leads to all of these treaties are invalid. He's highlighting these different articles within this 56 treaty, Article 3 and things of that nature. All of the treaties are invalid.
Say 1856.
1856 or something he referenced, but it just comes to here. They're all just invalid treaties. So why are we, playing this game when all of this shit is bullshit because there was no war declared on us? So to understand that, it's just like, okay, damn the hearing. There is no hearing because you don't even have the proper documentation to even say that there was a war, but you'd even capture our land to even have us here in 1866 arguing about what you had allotted us, if that makes sense.
Correct.
So we're bullshitting with this whole hearing.
That's why we're co-opted. That's exactly why we're co-opted, because these people, if there was no war declared by the United States government, then who are you? Who are you and how did you even
get here?
Who are you talking about? That's what I keep asking myself. Who are you talking about? Who are you saying you represent? Because the names coming out of your mouth, it's not you. So
facts.
Like, that's the only thing that keeps going through my mind. Who are they talking about? Like, y'all just up here talking. where is the people you're talking about? I'm not seeing anything coming out of the media about, like,
Mm,
like, what are you
yeah,
talking about?
You're in war. I mean, but that's that great point. That's propaganda, right? They're not going to
Intellectual.
advertise this. It's only 324 views, and,
Mm,
and you got
wow.
the Tariq Nasheeds, the Dane Callaways. You got a lot of people out here that are talking about the reality that they are American. How are we not talking about this? Like the fact that this is going over our heads and nobody is actually looking at this. This is your enemy.
facts.
This is who you got to deal with. You got to deal with these 5 fake tribes, and you got to deal with the United States government that unlawfully warred on you and took every fucking thing that you created, all the towns you had. It took everything.
So y'all just kind of, made something click in my head when you said, who are these people they're talking about? These names, like they're really set tripping. So they took our names, these fake chiefs here on this panel. They took our names as far as our tribal names, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole. They took our names, and then, like he's saying, they're co-opting, or they're in partnership with this U.S. government, because again, they're not representing any of us on this channel, any of where they originally came from, which would be the Southeast. So they not only are masquerading as us, but then they're representing a fake person,
Right.
a straw man, basically. Like, who are these people that they're vouching for? Because it's not us.
You made me think about something. They're here advocating for a group of people. Cool. Do your job. There's a whole bunch of Black Americans, quote unquote, like I said, Tariq Nasheed, Dan Calloway, so many of these other people screaming about the American, yet we're here having a hearing about whoever they're talking about. So it's just showing you how they're just completely ignoring this at this point. There's a group of people yelling reparations, reparations. They're over here talking about the reservations is unlivable. What about them Negroes over there saying they need some help in the hood? So again, just watching this is just like intellectual warfare. You gotta be smart enough to outsmart these niggas, meaning they can sit here and pretend they're smart. You gotta be ahead of them, knowing y'all ain't doing shit. Y'all over here, whatever. This is the machine. This is exactly what it is. We're watching it.
Yeah, we watching a play, just like the January 6th hearings. What's coming out of this?
Which is still to that one still got a little bad itch in my throat, because it's like they killed people, dog.
Yeah.
They killed people. And that was kind of like, woohoo.
Brushing under the rug. Brushing under the rug. Let me see. I guess we could play a little bit before of the assistant chief and then close out. And then we should be right on time there.
Thank you. Majinita, Haraniram, Nadethuzlan Pumbahoyan, Moman Pum, Ojoagi, Dadi, Ojobagi, Sabaklet, Mongis. During opening remarks in the HASDA reauthorization 1 year ago on this date, the following was stated: the United States signed more than 370 treaties, passed laws, and instituted policies that have come to define the special government-to-government relationship between the federal and tribal governments, and obligates the federal government to promote the general well-being of Native American tribes. Yet, the United States has failed to provide that assistance. Any treaty must be viewed through the author's eyes and those who reluctantly agreed to it. Weighted consideration must be given to the government's chosen language, intent, and the atmosphere in which it was constructed 156 years ago. This is how the U.S. Constitution is viewed. This is how the treaties are viewed. Article 2 of the Seminole Nation Treaty of 1866 reads, in part, many persons of African descent and blood who have no interest or property in the soil and no recognized civil rights shall be permitted to settle, have and enjoy the rights of all Native citizens, equally binding laws, and may be adopted as citizens or members. The Dawes Commission certainly categorized Freedmen and Seminole separately and introduced blood quantum. Phrases and terms utilized within the treaty are not the words of the Seminole. They're the words and desires of the federal government. This short testimony to discuss select provisions is a disservice to the Seminole and warrants a deeper conversation. Grossly negligent oversights of the treaty agreements still occur beyond the McGirt case. The government must account for and consider the impact any decision may have on a financially fragile tribal system that has yet to overcome historical poverty caused by previous lack of protection defined by the treaties in times of war and hostility, loss of valuable oil and land, and continual suffering from the historical trauma caused by the Indian Removal Act. As an elected official under the oath of office of the Seminole Nation, I must uphold the treaty, the tribal and U.S. Constitution, the tribal codes as they are written and as they govern the Seminole. Mado.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burridge, please proceed.
There. He mentioned something that caught my attention when he said, I think he said 370 plus treaties or so that the United States has had with the Americans. Goes back to exactly what I said a few minutes ago. Okay, all of these treaties, but what war was declared for you to even have these treaties? So of course they're going to all be invalid. So again, it's like they're trying to argue something that is already, you know, it's already make-believe.
Right, debunked.
It's already debunked. It's like you don't even have to go that deep. He referenced the Constitution, and I'm like, did you even read the Constitution now? Because if you did, then you would see that Congress declares war. It's a treaty supreme law of the land. So if there's no war, or if there's no war, and these treaties are supposed to be stopping these battles, these wars,
Right.
what are we doing?
Who were you fighting?
Who were you fighting? What are you signing up for if there was nothing ever declared?
Right. Who were you fighting? Where did this treaty come? What war did this treaty come out of? You know,
Exactly.
we know many wars, you know, on this land or as far as this government, but when it comes to these treaties on the land, who are you fighting? And what group of people was this? And so yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's already debunked because you're talking about a treaty, but you're not talking about the war.
Facts.
One of y'all pull up a calculator right quick. This might be the worst one to this point. Assistant Cherokee. I'm looking at this guy and he's speaking the language, and I'm looking at this guy like there's, you know, can somebody pull up a calculator and put in?
I got you.
Put in 156.
156.
Yep. He said 156 years ago is when these treaties were signed. Divide that by 70. That's assuming that your grandparents lived to 70 years old.
2.2.
We're talking 2 generations, y'all. This is not that long ago. And you're trying to tell me that this guy that just spoke is American.
Right.
Can y'all see the bullshit?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking as well. Like, who are you talking about again? Because if you're representing this group of people, where are those group of people that look like you that you're representing? And I'm not. Don't you point at these niggas on the reservations? Like, who are you? What war are you talking about? Was the war only on the Indian territory that you're talking about? Like they're just all over the place at this point. Like you said, this is the worst one because he decided to start off with the language. It's like, come on, y'all.
Yeah, like you're trying to put on the front.
Right.
Yes.
So he's really telling us, here's the mind fuck. And if they can lie to you about there's no money, everything else is just, it never stops. He's trying to tell you this is what the American looks like, is European. That's what he's saying. I am a Seminole.
Get out of here, bro.
Back to what, so what are y'all saying? That it was people who look like you and Europeans? Wait a minute. So both of y'all are white. So you're talking about, so there were white Americans.
Who died off? Where's this group of people that y'all wore and they're gone?
Then you say color red, bronze looking people.
You know, like,
so who are? Yeah, that doesn't describe you.
Are y'all saying that the European and the African made us, and the native is just a whole other group that, like, again, just it makes no sense. Where are these people at?
Man has
got off. I thought all the natives died.
This man has
He said
Irish,
African
red,
descendants, which we know that African descendants is a word that we never seen until 1866.
mhm,
But the word Negro was also in that 1866 document.
mhm.
But his ass was adopted
Yeah.
as a Seminole, but then he's turning around saying,
Look,
Yeah.
we don't want African, we don't want Africa. First of all, you're not even American, but he's saying we got an issue with the United States government dictating to us that
Mm.
people of African descent can be American. The real answer is people of African descent, get the fuck out.
mhm.
People of European descent, get the fuck out. And the people who are the real American, the people who look like us, we got to put a gate up and say, no, they're
Yeah.
all eating off of us. And
Yeah.
that's what none of us really want to deal with. Everybody wants to make it seem like we're this peaceful group of people, like, we get along. No, everybody else puts a gate up. The Chinese put gates up.
Mhm.
Literally.
Yeah.
The Mexicans put gates up.
Literally.
Everybody puts a gate up. We got to put a gate up and be like, look, let's stop. You're not American. You're a US citizen, but you're not an American. It's a difference.
The difference. It's level skills.
I don't understand why we continue to get that confused. It's two different terms. U.S. citizen, American. I don't give a fuck where this shop was set up.
Mhm.
I can't, open up a manufacturing shop in China and then start saying I'm Chinese because I work out there.
Facts.
So these people are just annoying the hell out of me at this point. Like, okay, we got to be the ones to start representing ourselves because clearly nobody is going to speak for you.
Yeah.
So who's
Nobody-
the American in y'all minds? Just a question. Who's the American to you, Chief Biko? Who's the American? Who's the US citizen?
Shit, we the American. People on this channel. We're the American.
Your everyday black people.
Yeah, the US citizen would be shit. The European American, as they like to call it. So you got the Irish American.
Two
You got
continents
You
come
see how
together.
they know exactly who they are. If you have any other country in front of that American, you are a US citizen.
What about you, Chief Blackcoat? What are you American? Who's the American? Who's the US citizen?
Yep, just in alignment with Chief Biko, the American, your everyday black folk. Your ones fighting for degrees, the ones buying the BMWs and all of the luxury. Us. And then your US citizens is everybody that don't look like you, green card, all these types of people, this big melting pot, everybody that don't look like you, black people, those are US citizens, and they know it, and they know where they come from. They just playing you as far as me, Americans, they just playing us. So black is American. Like, we just gotta understand that's whole, you're just double whammying yourself, black American. No, just American, dog. You good. Yeah, you got a heart in it.
Shit.
Right.
US citizen, basically you say people given the playbook of how to eat off of the American.
That's a great
You know
point.
what I'm saying? Because
That's a
they're
great
a US
point.
citizen, okay, so this is what I have to do. Okay, this is what I have to do so this is the table of contents. These are the instructions. Okay, gotcha.
I was laughing at a girl on Twitter. She was highlighting DJ's Khaled family came from somewhere over there in the East, or the so-called East. And she was like, it's so amazing how immigrants can, travel from another land and blow up so big and provide for their families. And all I was thinking to myself was like, if you really think they came over here with no lick of English and just built these millionaire, enterprises, you're high.
They're not like that. It's a playbook. If they could do that, they would have did it where they was from.
Where they were at. Come on, you're doing too much.
Yeah.
It's the playbook. They got the playbook, and not only did they get the playbook, the government broke it down for them, bribed them. This is this. Their playbook. And I like how you put that, because no true American got the playbook.
Yeah.
So you pretty much sit on the bench the whole time, just looking.
Absolutely.
I'll hop out of here, guys. The family about to go get some dinner. I'm about to ride out with them.
Got you.
So I'm gonna get out before they start screaming at me, guys.
10-4.
He was a good He was a good one. These two Seminole, the assistant chief and the chief of the Seminole. Yeah, y'all pretty much nailed it tonight, man. We have to understand that we were the owners.
Mhm.
And as long as they perpetuate the slave narrative, then we're never going to really embrace our inventors. You know, these people were the shot callers in their respective towns, in their respective territories. Their families were royalty. Their families, you know, the Pattersons, whoever invented the car, you know, that family had a name for itself. And just to try to water us down that everybody came off a plantation, I know we've shattered that myth. You know, we've done too many inventions that the world eats off of now.
Yeah.
I think that's our biggest thing with recovery, is we cannot see ourselves as owning and controlling the ports
Mhm.
from Massachusetts all the way down to Florida. We can't wrap in our mind that we were doing import export. We taught them how to do it, and now they've just pushed us out of the way and made us think like we've never done that. But you look at the crack era that I grew up in, and you see all these people who were able to take a piece of rock, a piece of cocaine, and make empires out of it. We can take something as small as that and just, you know, rap comes out of all of these different things, but in our mind, you're going to tell us that we were slaves.
Mhm.
And we didn't do anything. Even today, there's people today that are making serious moves, major moves, but it'll never be talked about because it will put the true intellect of the real American on display. So what they have to do is always put us out there as upside down and backwards.
Right. Yeah. Anytime they put us in front of that camera, we got to make them look this way to fit this narrative. We can't let them see the more gifted of the individuals or their group. So yeah, that's a great point. Great point. And yeah, none of these people that we've seen as far as these quote unquote chiefs look like us. They got it. Last person just spoke. Clearly was one of those adopted whites that they mentioned in the 1866 Indian treaties.
He's a redhead.
He's a red. I'm saying he got red hair. I mean, he's Irish, guys. Like, God, dog. What do you see when you like every group of people? You can tell. Oh yeah, I know you. You're Irish. No, I'm American. Okay, you're lying. If he were to walk up to you and just say, yeah, he's Native American, we'd be like, you're lying. So why is it so hard for us to see that with ourselves? We're the American. You can clearly look at him like you say, he's a gingerhead. I mean, y'all.
Yeah, it's a mind fuck, bro. Like, how did we go from owning and controlling our own towns to now we aspire to be under their rule of thumb?
Facts.
How did that happen? You know, and that's a part of recovery, understanding that they came over here as peasants. In 156 years from 1866, when you got all these inventions, and I'm gonna say this, these inventions were not invented the dates that we're reading off these patents.
Oh no. That's the day they probably got their hands on it.
Correct. That's as the United States government started to get more organized, we were already doing it.
Yeah.
They were just recording it. But it's amazing to me how I'm not saying everybody in the group, I'm gonna say 85% of our people mentally, we've won when we get put on by them. That's amazing, the mind fuck that they were able to do to the indigenous people of this land.
Yeah.
You haven't arrived unless we put you on.
And we the ones that created the thing that you're trying to put us on to. And it's just yeah, it's just
Music industry, sport, football, basketball, like without us, they're nothing. But they got you mentally where you're not something unless you sign with the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
You can't create a Negro basketball league again.
Just think of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the reason why the shit is running, but you think you need them. That's backwards. You need the players to even have this whole thing, but you're saying, oh, I mean, they don't want to count the checks. So you don't want to do the work to create your own. Ain't nobody coming to just see. I mean, it's documented. That's why they was taking folks are the Americans from the Negro leagues. Saying, nah, they balling over here. We need to get them signed here early.
It's not, all of us are not gonna, I mean, even back then, like you say, we were more organized back then. Damn, how do I say this? It's got to be in you to really understand who you descend from and to create, right? It doesn't take a lot of us because everybody's not going to be a creator of something. Everybody can't take something out of their head and make it real. But there is a group of us that are going to have to come together to help this group of people come out of this matrix, because we don't have to rebuild anything. Reparations is not give us something and let us do our own thing. No, reparations is everything you took that we already created. We need that shit back.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done it.
I'm saying it.
We've
already done it, and we can make it 10 times greater. We know these things, we know these fields, we know these industries, we know these, manufacturers, like we know this stuff. We know this stuff. I think it's just
scientists.
I think it's a mental block where it's like, but if we take it, but can we run it? Yes, we've been doing it. We've been running these things. And I think that's probably what's the biggest hiccup. Like, okay, if we do get all of it, is it going to be efficient? To be honest with you,
The older I've gotten in life, the more I realize that we are science and technology. Every time we do an inventor, you cannot invent something without science and engineering and math. Science and math. Every time we read an inventor, you're looking at a master in science and math.
Mm-hmm.
In today's society, when you look at guys that's in prison, there's a running joke that we'll say like, man, they can create anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
All we got to do is get back what we've already created. And that we're not starting from zero. We can never start from zero because we're giving the world too much.
Facts. We're gonna keep this going, y'all. So the viewers, next week, week 10, continue to listen to some of these lives, these basically say mascots of the American, because we already know, again, who the American is us. We'll continue to go ahead and debunk them point for point. So